Welcome to Rauta. This is Midgardsblot 2022. Post-COVID, very much pro festival. And here we have some Viking metalheads, but also some black metal dudes. Dude, you are playing a band called Mork. Please introduce yourself and what the fuck are you doing here with me?
You know what? I have no fucking clue, man. You just asked me to show up here, and here I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's start with the very basic question. Why Mork, not Mörk?
Yeah, you know what? About 90% of the black metal people of the globe get this wrong, because everyone thinks it's from the word dark.
Exactly,
It's
which
not-
is Mörk.
It's not dark. It's more about dork. I'm just kidding. It's actually a word that I made up on my own. It's taken from the Norwegian word morken, or something is morkent. That means it's decayed or rotting. So I just shortened the word and mork. It just became like that. It was a stupid choice I did 20 years ago. I drew the logo with a pencil in my boyhood room, you know, and today just stands the test of time. It just happened to be this way.
Now that you mentioned the logo and you had it on as a flag, you know, behind the set and all, and looks good, but there's quite a strong Darkthronian feeling with the style of the wings, you know. What gave you the inspiration? Is it just coincidence of having this Darkthronian vibe, or what's the story of this logo?
Honestly, obviously Darkthrone has been important to me, even back then when I started Mork. But the logo is based on the Morken theme I was talking about. It's about the roots of the trees. You know, I remember walking in the forests, and when the trees are keeling over, you can see they expose the roots hanging. You know, and that is kind of the inspiration for the logo. So if you watch closely, you can see like there's some branches, you know, and textures. You cannot see that on the Darkthrone logo. So,
Well, that's very true.
So it's very true with a V.
All right. Now, talking about nature and thing, I think a lot of old school black metal heads really understand this, but it still might not be too obvious. The thing here is, what I'm talking about is that a lot of Norwegian bands, especially the ones that kind of started with the early 90s, brought nature into the being, while other bands went for straight more like darkness, Satan, and anti-Christianity and so forth. What kind of a role nature and the themes of nature, now that you mentioned decay, play in Mork?
It's basically something I can't explain, because I don't know, when you walk in the Norwegian forest, you just get a vibe. You know, there's a feeling, there's a kind of a sense of danger. It's dark, it's moist. I don't know, it's just something that clicks, it works, you know. And I've gotten a lot of inspiration in the early days walking around in the forest, you know.
And that seems to be true for so many bands other than that. Do you have some kind of a collective or group of people who either understand nature and those who are out of it, or is it just coincidence?
I can only answer for myself and Mork, and the thing is that I started Mork 20 years ago, almost, in 2 years, in Halden, which is my hometown, and Halden has never had any black metal scene or any milieu at all. It was only me who did this on my own, and it still functions as a one-man band. I have the guys with me when we are performing, but I just discovered and paved my own route, you know, and just I don't know if you could call it coincidences, but just happened to be this way, you know.
Now, talking about this lineup, that was something that I was thinking about when I was seeing your show, because I was like, okay, this is one-man show as much as I can understand based on the albums and all, but there you are functioning as a full band. How easy it was for you to find proper people to play along with you live, because that line setup seems like working very fine.
Yeah, it does actually, and the funny thing about that, I never went into the black metal scene to pick people or ask people. Perhaps I talked to somebody along the way, but it never happened. So these people are basically people I grew up with in Halden, who also got into black metal but never performed it. So one day I just decided I want to do this live, because Mork is so important to me and big part of my being. So I just asked the people that I wanted to share the time with, because we are actually sharing time when we are traveling and hanging out, and these are people I am comfortable with. And they just picked up the thread, you know, and we became this black metal unit live. The only guy who has previously been in a black metal band is the drummer, Malignant. He played in Ragnarok before, and he has his own band called Døden, which you should check out. And I don't know, I'm content with my situation as it is now.
Coming from a very different city than the typical ones, which I guess a lot of people would say Oslo, Bergen, I don't know, maybe Trondheim, but you are coming from a city where you say the scene is basically non-existent. What gave you the power to change things for your own home city? I mean, what made you the rebel leader?
It was probably because I was a kind of a loner. I'm an only child. Of course I have friends and stuff, but I don't know, I just enjoy playing alone. That's just how I grew up. I always sat on the floor with Legos or whatever and action figures and made up stuff, because I didn't have any brothers or sisters, you know. So I just think that my creativity? My creativity just bloomed in a way, I suppose, and that just shines through now. I can handle all the tasks when it comes to creating the music and the lyrics and the production. I just enjoy doing it, and I'm a fucking egotist, which also is important, I think.
What made you pick up the first instrument in the first place?
The guitar. I picked up the guitar in 1997 or something. Maybe I touched the guitar in 96. I'm born in '84, so I'm 38 now. That was because of the cool kids in the schoolyard. They were, you know, going outside the shed and smoking and listening to punk rock. So basically, that punk influence is what made me want to rebel, maybe, and buy a guitar and start making songs, I think. So it's punk rock in the beginning.
There's a lot of similarities between punk and the kind of a more grimmer, raw end of black metal, which is also what Mork is doing.
Absolutely.
Yet some people still want to deny the influence or presence of punk's rebellious and even the kind of a primitive ways of creating music into the world, which is kind of like giving the middle finger. What is your take on punk's meaning to nowadays black metal? Is it a non-existent, or is it mandatory part of knowing the history?
I think about when I write my music, I spill my guts. If you know what I mean? That's kind of punk. You just expose yourself, and that is exactly what I do with my lyrics, and I try to do with the melodic part of the music. So I think it's the honest part. That's punk, I think. I do obviously rebel against some stuff, which I won't go into because I don't want to discuss the lyrics particularly. But I think, hey, just listen to the first Venom album, listen to Darkthrone, it's a lot of punk. Listen to Carpathian Forest. And if you talk to Mayhem guys, you know,
they actually covered a lot of punk songs or hardcore rock songs with their.
They come from punk rock, and that's just the way it is.
Now, what I was paying attention to when I saw you on stage is that while your music is very grim and kind of a basic back to 1990s roots of black metal, you also have these somewhat melodic vocals. Not exactly clear and clean like, you know, Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, obviously.
There's no falsettos.
Yeah, but you still have the kind of melodic ways also. It's not just raspiness and grimness all the way. What made you to have those melodic parts in the vocal section?
I'm going to tell you precisely why. That's because I don't give a fuck about rules. My music is something I have to stand behind. It's a part of me. If I try to fit my music into a little black metal box or shape, then I will just rob myself of the experience.
Obviously.
So I don't give a shit about what people think about, oh, you can't cross this or that, because what comes out of me, and that is the honest, true part in what I do. I don't want to sound like somebody else. Why should I?
Now, my point is more like, could you imagine taking that a little bit further, like including totally clean vocals, just because, I mean, you could?
Yeah, absolutely. But I like the variation, you know. And to me, music is melody. You know, you can't get away from that. There's melody in black metal, of course it is.
Of course, a lot of bands.
People are tuning their guitars and playing riffs on them. That's melodies, you know. So I don't know. I enjoy including clean vocals when it's needed, because when I write a song, I can like feel, okay, I think I need some clean vocals here, and maybe something drops into my head, some melody lines. Then we'll just go for it. But there's not too much of it, I think.
No, not too much. I think you have reached a very good balance with it. Now, my question is more like, do you sometimes feel you're crossing the borders, or do you feel that every idea that comes out of your head is full-blown Mork?
Yeah, I think I cross the borders of what is expected of a black metal band, but I enjoy crossing that border and giving a little bit of a middle finger. But to me, I enjoy creating. You know, it's like I told you earlier, it's true for me, what's inside me. So.
Now that you mentioned lyrics a little bit, obviously people are now like, okay, he gave us a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of a finger work, so to speak, but he's not just ready to have sex with us. Now, if you could have a little bit of sex with us, like, could you a little bit enlighten us about the general topics of lyrics? We don't have to go into detail, but what kind of topics are your favorite or trademark of Mork like?
What songs are my favorites?
I mean, what are, if you could just describe the general lyrics of Mork, how you would sum them up?
It's basically, I call them poems. They're dark poems, you know. It's just stuff that goes around in my head, and I just put it down on the paper. I suppose it's frustration I feel inside about myself, about others, about the society, about, I don't know. Like I told you, it's a poem, so I kind of paint with my words, you know.
That's pretty romantic image.
Yeah, it is. But to me, black metal is a bit romantic too, you know. And there is some beauty in there.
It's kind of a necromantic.
There you go.
Okay, let's talk about the production. Your production is quite grim in general. You're not exactly Dimmu Borgir, nor you are not exactly Ilion either, but there's certain kind of a grimness that is very fitting for your kind of music. But what dictates the sound and feel for a Mork album?
I appreciate you saying that, actually, because I was a bit worried that our last release was a bit too polished.
No.
Polished! You know,
almost like Polish?
No related to Poland. We are going to Poland on Saturday, by the way. See you there. No, I think it needs to be a bit rough around the edges. You know, if I would do 100% what I felt, it would be like a tape from the 80s. You know, that sounds cool. You know, but it doesn't represent my music. So there you have the result. That's why it sounds like it does. It's audible, but it's rough. And I do it on my own, so I can't do any better work. So it's just natural.
So you have kind of a natural technical limitations.
I suppose. I have a guy that mixes my stuff, but unluckily for him, he has to mix my recordings, you know. So just happened to be.
At least you're being humble, not a big-ass Norwegian rock star. No, joking aside, Norwegian has gotten its share of big-ass Norwegian black metal things. Now, before I get into a very, very long rant, I recently ran in some numbers, and based on Spotify listenings and also Facebook fans, a lot of bands, obviously, I mean, in black metal territory, come from Norway. That's kind of a given. But a lot of bands seem more like, yeah, we're still doing our punk shit and we don't give a fuck. You probably know the bands I'm talking about. And then there are bands which are more like, don't you know who we are? We are creators of black metal. And people are like, what the hell is this talk? Now, you being a Norwegian and you being witnessing this firsthand for a long time, how do you feel the change in black metal scene Norway since the early days. How do you think things have changed in that department with success and all?
Yeah, I need to be honest. I wasn't around in the early days as a start.
Well, yeah, maybe you were a little too old for 1991, but
yeah, I started school in '91.
You've seen the people in first hand.
Everyone, and I know many of the guys, and I heard the stories. You know, I think it's been split open a bit more now. As you know, in Norway, it's actually a national treasure now.
Yeah, which feels awkward for a lot of people outside Norway. Like, hey, they're taking this music to museum, which it used to be rebel against.
So we've gone from a small gang of people who just was about rebellion.
Yeah.
And we have become an art form.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because I'm too old to rebel in that way. These people, back then, they were teenagers, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm pushing 40. It would look a bit stupid if I try to act like
20 years old.
Yeah, you know, or as they did back then. If I tried to be like them, that would just make me a total fake.
Would it be considered as awkward or cringy?
I don't know. I suppose some people today try to act up to that stuff, and I have my thoughts about that. But hey, it's whatever they want, you know. To me, the art is the important thing, and I have no problem smiling when I'm talking to you. I don't have to be that grim guy. Because
I've noticed a lot of people don't have that problem because when they're confident enough and they don't have anything to prove, like, what's the point or problem with that?
It's right in front of you. It's my music.
It does the talking.
It does the talking, and I'm me, and I have all the feelings that you have, you know.
But I'm dead inside.
You're dead inside. Yeah, I'm
Joking aside. Okay, what kind of bands keep you inspired? I mean, some people obviously come from, I come from the 70s and I come from the 80s and whatever, but I was noticing, taking a look at your shirt, and it's not actually a modern band.
Have you heard them?
Yeah. No, well, never actually listened to them. Let's be honest about it. But obviously, I know the band. But what makes you tick? What kind of albums you're like? Okay, I need to pick my guitar and make my own riffs. I mean, what keeps you inspired in terms of music?
Oh, it's so much. It's so much. But,
just give a couple of random
sure.
ideas.
One thing is that I usually go backwards. I'm not that up to date on the current situation of nothing, basically. The first Black Sabbath album, that is a special one. That it actually has a feeling which I can almost touch. I enjoy the old Rainbow albums. I like classic rock, I like old metal too, Like I met, we played Wacken recently, and I ran into Sirith Ungol.
Oh, okay, cool.
That was fun. That's a band I picked up via Dark Throne, obviously, because the guys are big fans. So I don't know, you never know what tickles your fancy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If something inspires you, it does. But truthfully, not many bands inspire my music. That's basically other stuff. I listen to bands when I'm having a party.
But do you all sometimes feel, and I was about to say often, but let me correct me, do you sometimes feel like, okay, now I created this wonderful melody or guitar lead or a riff, but it doesn't really fit in Mork, and I need some other outlet, maybe a hard rock band, maybe some heavy metal band or whatever, to just kind of take it out? Do you ever feel that you need some other project apart from Mork to represent you truthfully?
Yeah, you know what? I would love to be able to do that. I have talked about with the other guys in the band to do something else just for fuck, some dirty rock and roll stuff. Maybe Motorhead meet Venom, I don't know. I even toyed around with the idea of having black metal crossover with Ramones. But the thing is, I pour every single drop of me into Mork, so it's so hard.
So you're kind of a dry by the time that's finished.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything I do goes into it. So up to this day, maybe something will happen next week. I don't know. But Mork seems to be right here.
Okay.
And here.
Now let's touch a little bit more touchy subject. Black metal is nowadays very much subjected to all kind of politics and political opinions, even with the bands that don't really give a fuck. what do you think about this forcing politics into music that was never political to begin with?
And that's back to the punk element, I suppose. But I have to say, there's some of those politics you're talking about and poking now. That stuff I don't want to be related to, you know, because I'm not that kind of person in general. I know Finland has had some stuff going on.
There are always some bands that have stuff going around.
Yes.
That's very true.
And I don't know. It's not a part of it for me. So I don't care what people do. Hey, if it floats your boat, do it. You know. But hey, I just take care of myself.
Now there was some talk about these later on. I don't know, ideas which seem to be very edgy and extreme, and some people are like seeing very romanticized about like, hey, but you know how churches burned down in the early 90s, there were murders, everybody, I mean those Vikernes and you know even in the Emperor guys and all that stuff. How do you feel these distant elements nowadays, black metal? Do you think they're more like things of the past and they should not be talked about, or were they still like key elements to the whole scene to begin with?
I don't know, you know, people keep saying that to be a black metal person, you have to be a bit extreme. That's like, that's in the cards, you know. And maybe some people want to use those politics to show that they're extremists or whatever. I go within. I'm extreme with my emotions and in my lyrics. So I'm more extreme against myself. You know, there's a bit of, I don't know, it's silly to call it self-hatred, but you know.
But I think I know what you mean, because
Yeah.
I think that's very much present in lots of Nordic countries, that we kind of have to self-reflect with the
yeah, and that I don't like.
world.
I don't like the neighbors that much, you know. That's also a natural given. So, but you know what? Can I say Bursum?
Yeah.
Here, or will you get cancelled?
No.
No.
If I will, it's okay.
Yeah. You know what? I absolutely love his music.
Yeah.
But I'm distancing myself from his opinions.
I feel you totally.
You know?
Yeah.
It's too bad that he's associated with that stuff,
Yeah.
because his music is just perfect.
Yeah.
It's because of him and Ted and Gylve that I have started Mork, I suppose.
Well, I guess that would, you know, nail pretty much my personal favorites as well.
Yep.
Now, before we kind of start closing all the stuff, how do you feel Norway is positioned nowadays as a black metal country as opposed to things in 20, 30 years ago? Because, of course, the dynamics have changed and there are lots of bands coming from different countries, and one could even make the claim that the crown has been stolen from Norway. What do you think about it?
Like I told you earlier, I don't stay up to date on anything. I just live inside my own cave, you know. But I suppose Norway will always. You can't come from South America or Africa or Finland or wherever and call yourself true Norwegian black metal.
No, well, that's kind of a given.
So it's our own thing. But hey, I think it's healthy. It's bloomed all over the place. Just recently, we played a little festival up in Norway here together with a black metal band from Jerusalem.
Okay.
You know, so
That was kind of unexpected, I guess.
yeah, but this is something that touches the hearts of people globally.
Yeah.
You shouldn't shy away from that. It's just it's natural. It has spread that far, then it has to be like that, you know. So I think it's just healthy. You have the Hellenic scene from Greece, and there's a lot of stuff. You have the Finnish scene, you know, Swedish scene. I don't know. It's just black metal is just a phenomenon all over the world now. But
Kind of
only Norway is true Norwegian black metal.
Kind of a universal language, but you need your own accent, so to say.
Everyone has a dark side.
All right. Before we close in, what's Mork going to be in, say, 3 or 5 years? Let's play a little bit of a foretelling here.
Yeah, I suppose we have been releasing albums still. Our 6th studio album is coming up next year. I suppose I will do something a bit more spectacular around the 20-year anniversary. Nothing is certain yet, but I'm toying around with the idea. Hopefully we will be touring way more, because we really do enjoy touring. you know.
Which is more important nowadays for Mork? Touring and doing gigs versus making new songs in a studio?
Two separate things, so you can't compare.
You can't really pick your favorite baby?
No, actually not.
Okay.
Because the music part is of course always part of me, but
Yep.
I'm also, I have a great wanderlust.
Yeah.
I like to explore the world and see new places.
I totally get you.
And yeah, and meet new people like yourself. Both is like 50-50, I suppose. Yeah.
All right, that's a good way to answer it. Now, the last question would be, if you cannot recommend your latest album to the audience who is now ready to click your Bandcamp or whatever links, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna check out Mork, but let's play this game. You are out of bounds to recommend the last album, but you had to pick one album or maybe one song to start to digging deep into the Mork rabbit hole. What would be your pick?
This is like picking a favorite child, actually.
I know. I'm a nasty person like
You
that.
are. Piece of shit.
Yeah. Guilty as charged.
One album or one song?
One album or a song. You can make it as easy or as hard it for yourself as you want.
The previous album then. The Svarte Juv. I suppose.
Why?
I don't know, man. You asked.
Okay, this is our cue. Whenever I make people laugh, it's time to go away because we already destroyed the grimness and all. Now, people, now that I've witnessed Mork live and on albums, and I know they're doing good deal of good shit, and he's not full of shit, well, you know what to do. Click and listen to that music, and if you're a true believer in terms of a metal music fan, obviously gonna buy some of that on CD or vinyl, whatever ticks your boat. This is Rauta, this is Mork, and we're greeting you from Midgardsblot. See you, and stay tuned for more stuff getting away.
Don't leave me hanging, man.
Boom!